I'm James Wedmore, and with 17 years online, I've built my business to over $12 million in sales per year. And this is the first non-business business podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of spirituality, energy, and mindset to grow your business beyond your wildest dreams, all from the inside out. This is the Mind Your Business podcast.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to my favorite segment of the week, the weekly win. This week, we've got it's a special week because we have several entrepreneurs that were being featured on the podcast. So I can't rightly say Wednesday weekly win. It is just the digital CEO weekly win. And today I have Paul Schmidt, and Paul has one of my all-time favorite niches. So as soon as I read the success that you've seen this year in Business by Design, I was like, I got to talk to Paul on the podcast. So Paul, introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do.
Well, first, Jenny, thanks for having me. Thanks to James and the entire team for having me. My name is Paul Schmidt. I am in Richmond, Virginia. And I, for the last 26 years, not entirely full-time, but I've been a voice actor for the last 26 years. I've been doing it full-time since 2018. And in 2022, I started a business to help teach voice actors how to find work directly without relying on Fiverr, Upwork, Voice123, Voices.com, or their agents. So it takes the intermediaries out of the equation. And that's how I built my business. And that's how I teach other voice actors to build their businesses.
That is so cool. I feel like that's something I wish would have been available when I was voice acting. When we were in college together, James and I met in film school. One of my friends was a voice actor, and he roped in 4 of his other actor friends to do like voiceover work as our college income. And we had the best time doing that. And my parents still bring up like my voice acting career of like, you could have stuck with voice acting. So it's such a neat niche. And I think that it's also very specific. Maybe people who aren't in theater or acting community, they might be listening to that thinking like, well, what do you mean by voice actor? Do you want to create like what that is as a profession?
Sure. Yeah. So whenever you hear a disembodied voice, right, whether it's on a TV commercial, there might be on-camera actors, and then there might be a voice actor at the end that says, sale ends Friday, details, whatever it might be. That's an example of a tag. Voice actors do full-on commercials as well. Whenever you're seeing images on a screen and they don't encompass the person on the screen talking to you, it's a voiceover. Sometimes the voiceover is done by the on-camera talent, most often not. But not just commercials, all kinds of corporate work, product demos, explainer videos, training, medical narration, technical narration, a lot of non-broadcast stuff, and then things that you wouldn't necessarily think of as commercials, like radio imaging work, where the voice of the station comes in with all the cool stingers in production. There's promo, which is essentially a commercial for a television network's own programming, right? That's a promo. TV imaging, right? Network promo. There's documentary narration. There's in-show narration. There are literally a couple dozen different genres of work that we do as voice actors. So it's incredibly varied. Audiobooks, another great example.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Because I think some people, when they hear voice actor, they think like you're in an animated movie or something, which that it could be that.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to do with voice acting. Okay. So walk me through, let's go back to when you joined Business by Design, or maybe even to the moment of you decided I'm going to teach my skill set online, and take me back to your origin story as a digital CEO.
Right. So I told you I've been doing voice acting for a very long time. I did it for 20 years part-time.
Wow.
And when I first tried to break in, I'll give you maybe a little more backstory than you need, but it was the late 90s, early 2000s. And at that time, Jenny, and you might be aware of this yourself, you had to be in the union. you probably had to be in New York or LA.
Mhm.
That's where all the coaches were. So if you were going to get
Mhm.
any sort of coaching at all, you had to be in one of those major markets, maybe Chicago, right? And you had to have representation. You had to have an agent,
Oh
right?
yeah, that's definitely when I exited the business. I remember thinking graduating college, like you could not get work unless you had your SAG card. And I was really very blessed. I got cast in a movie that gave me my SAG card for whatever, like, 20 lines or something, 10 lines I had. And then I was like, whew, I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about that. But I had friends that would work for years and be like, I can't book because you needed an agent, your SAG card, and like you said, if you weren't living in Los Angeles or New York or like maybe Shreveport, Louisiana, maybe Chicago, you were
Yeah.
not gonna book
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to work. So, and that's what I ran into. And I really made a good hard run at it for 2 years. And I just hit the wall and slid all the way down. And that's why I ended up just kind of taking side clients, like my radio client. They would say, hey, you did our radio spot. Would you do our cable spot? Well, sure. Right. And we'd pull a number out of thin air and, they'd slide me some side money and they were happy and I was happy. And that's how I did it for a very long time. And then I started years ago, I started to see my friends from the business kind of jump back in and do voiceover full time. And I'm going, wait a minute, they're not in New York or LA. And as far as I know, they don't have agents. And like, what's going on here? So I started to ask around and poke around. And what I realized was that the world had changed, right? We now had YouTube, we now had digital video. Every company had become a media production company, right? Literally, the guy up the street that does my brakes, it's a Midas shop, and he does YouTube videos
Wow.
espousing his expertise to bring people into the shop, right? He does content marketing. Now, he happens not to use voiceover, but it impressed upon me the point that there's more media out there now than there ever has been.
Yeah.
And what I learned from that was that we've now seen, to turn a phrase that James uses, the rise of the non-union self-made voice actor,
Mhm.
right? So you, like, when the light bulb went on that, oh, hold on, I can go get clients directly and I don't have to go through gatekeepers like Fiverr or an agent or
Yeah.
anything like that. And there's a lot of non-union work out there now that wasn't available 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
all of those things sort of conspired. And I went, well, hell, if I can, I know I can sell, because when I got out of radio, I got like a decade's worth of sales and marketing training. And I said, I know I can sell for other people. Hell, I can sell myself. So that's when I decided I wanted to go full time. So,
Wow. That is so neat. Okay, so what did you create as your first offer?
my first, my first offer is still my signature offer.
Okay.
It's called the VO Freedom Master Plan, and it is an 8 module course with an attendant community and weekly coaching calls in a
Mhm.
group setting. And it's 8 modules, and it walks you through how to build your digital marketing outreach machine from the ground up. And in this particular context, it relies heavily on email, one-to-one email outreach. And that means researching your clients and, building your messaging and a lot of the things that we do in BBD, but it's a different dynamic because you're going after a much more varied, it's not, you're not buying Facebook ads, you're not trying to attract, you're actually trying to go and promote your services to individual people.
Right. Yes. Okay. And where were you at when you joined Business by Design? Had you already launched it or
Yeah, I had launched it. It was about 2 years old, and I just joined BBD last June. So we're coming
Huh?
up on a year.
Yeah.
And one of my dear friends in the business, Dervla Trainer, who is a voice actor herself, she had been listening to Mind Your Business for a very long time, and she knew who James was, and she turned me on to James, and by proxy, the rise of the self-made, the rise of the digital
Yeah.
CEO
Yeah.
last year. And so I took that training, and I went, this is what I need, because I knew I've known for 2 years now that my messaging was not as on point as it could be, that there were things out there like Facebook ads that I had to get my head wrapped around that I had no clue about. So I knew that this was a good fit, and I joined BBD last June. And then when we went to BBD Live in December, I joined Next Level.
Oh yeah. Okay, so what is your first year been like?
So, first year has been amazing. Even in 2024, as a fiscal January to December year, I was up like 100 and something percent, 110, 112% from the
Mhm.
year before. My
Wow.
first quarter this year was 174% of my first quarter last year. Uh, so it's been
Wow.
super educational. When you jump into BBD, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, it is the proverbial drinking from a fire hose. There is so much material. It is overwhelming, and you just got to kind of pick something and dive into it. And it took me a while to figure that out. But I started doing live launch. I had never run a launch model before. My course was evergreen. Anybody could join at any time. I did sales calls to, vet people coming into the course. And I was willing to completely upend that because my thing was get behind people who have done this before, right?
Yeah.
Learn from them and become part of a community of people that are doing what you're trying to do as well. And so I tried to stay as coachable as possible. I tried to stay as open to new ideas as possible, and flipped everything to a live launch model and started doing that in September. And the first live launch we did just north of 40 grand on the first live launch, which is a 3-part webinar series. So that was encouraging. And I've done a couple of live launches since then with mixed results. I tried an entirely cold live launch that did not go as well as expected, right? But I learned a ton of data from that too. And I applied that moving forward. So, in fact, last night I just started what I think will be my third live launch overall.
Mhm.
We had the first webinar last night, and we're back into the cycle now.
Wow. Okay, so what's something that you implemented right away once you got into business by design? Because I think like what you're saying is so true. People come in and they go, "Holy moly, this is like the Encyclopedia Britannica for digital business. Where do I start?" And you can just kind of flip to a random section and go, I'm going to do that. But if you're starting from zero,
Mhm.
sometimes it can be a little bit easier. Where do I start in the program? Because you're going to start with launching your beta. You start with
Yep.
monetize before you make it, but you've already monetized and you have your product. So what did you come in? What did you grab? What's the first thing you used out of there?
So it took me a little while. I kind of hesitated because I was really torn for, I'm going to say, a few weeks
Hmm.
between a single webinar and the live launch, which is a 3 webinar series. And I even toyed with the idea of an automated like video series.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm looking at all these different options, trying to digest them and understand them. And at the same time, trying to vet them for, okay, what's the best fit for my product and my audience?
Yeah.
And it took me 3 or 4 weeks, but I finally landed on the live launch model. So the live launch strategy. 3 webinar series. I felt like it was pretty important for me to be as high touch as possible
Hmm.
because my price point is and was at the time too about $1,500 for the signature
Yeah.
program. And I felt, at least for where my trajectory was at the time, maybe you can do that price point with a single webinar. But I thought, let me err on the side of caution here. And if I'm going to err, let's err on the side of being too high touch or overly high touch. And so that's why I went with the live launch model.
That's awesome. So what shifted once you started doing that?
Wow, what shifted? I started to see the benefits of a launch model over evergreen. James calls it hope marketing, and that's essentially what I was doing. I saw the light in terms of paid traffic, and not only saw the light, but also um, I had a vehicle now with Liz's help to be able to start to learn and understand paid traffic, at least with Facebook ads.
Mhm.
So it's one thing to go, okay, that works, but I have no idea how to do it. It's another thing to go, that works, and here's a path to being able to learn it, right? So that was big for me because that was one piece I always knew I was missing, and I didn't want to just jump into it with no real training. So I figured that was going to be like lighting money on fire. So those were two big early things that I kind of latched onto.
Yeah, I love that. Liz, for those who don't know, Liz is our ads manager inside of our business, and she is a coach inside of Next Level that teaches ads. And there's things in Business by Design, like Ads by Design, where you can learn from her, like how do you start running ads? And if you're, for people who come in with something that already works, I know people that have built multiple six, seven-figure businesses off of organic traffic
Mm.
just because they don't want to run ads. And then you start running ads and it's like gasoline to the fire if you know how to do them right. So yeah, that's I love that. So you come in
Yep.
and you did the live launch model. Did you know, I know a lot of people get in their head about, well, is it going to be too much to ask of people to come to 3 free live events for a launch model? I don't want to like ask for too much of people's time. Did you feel like your clients responded well to we're doing
Yeah,
this
I
free part?
did. I think a lot of them responded because, I had at the time, I want to say about 1,900, 2,000 people on my email list.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
they were a very warm audience. It's double opt in, and I was doing content every week in newsletter form and videos. I have a YouTube channel. So that audience was very warm, and I had never done a launch model. So for me to present a big event like this, it was a pardon me, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so they responded very well. I think I had built a lot of trust by then. And the flip side of that is I tried the exact same mechanics 3 months later with an entirely cold audience, Facebook ads,
Yeah.
spent about 5 grand and sold 2 courses. So I actually lost money on my second
Yeah.
launch
Yeah.
because I didn't understand that, oh, the cold audience, they have to come in and get warm to you as well. You have to
Mhm.
build know, like, and trust. So it was a little premature, but live and learn. But yeah, I think the initial launch was super well received, and most of the warm launches since then, this one included, have been well received as well.
So let's talk about that, where you're okay. This is a really great point because I think some people get trapped in the faulty thinking of if you have a product that sells, an offer that's good, and a launch model that works, you should just be able to run it to cold traffic and it performs. And I love what you said, which is like that's not necessarily true. Sometimes can that work? Sure, but usually and then James teaches this, you'll create a launch runway that's designed to capture the cold lead and then warm them up over a series of days, weeks, or sometimes even months. So
Sometimes
that,
years.
yeah, so that when you go, hey, the live launch is here, it's a 3 part live event, come join, that is effectively what was once a cold lead is now a very warm lead. So what are some things you mentioned the newsletter? What are some things that you've put into place in your business to help warm up cold leads that are coming into your funnels or sales system?
So I told you I've had a YouTube channel since really the birth of the signature program.
Hmm.
So the YouTube channel's coming up on 3 years as well. And I won't say I've published every single week, but in a given year, I look back and I'm publishing like 46 times on average a year in terms of long form, 8 to 12 minute videos. And so what I started doing was, and this has only been fairly recently in the last couple of few months, with every video now, I am trying to build a lead magnet, something that somebody can take away from the video and actually download and go, okay, I can use this as reference material for my business moving forward.
Mm.
So that's really helped generate leads for me as well. That's been a kind of a big game changer because I was going from, organically, I'd get maybe 1 to 3 to 4 leads a day. And obviously, if you're doing paid traffic, that all changes. But organically, but it's definitely an average of below 5. Now I'm averaging 8 to 12 leads a day just through consistent
Oh,
lead magnets. And the lead magnets aren't necessarily married to the video. The lead magnet has legs forever. And so does the video, and they might hit people in different. You might find a lead magnet on Instagram, right? But you'll find the video
yeah.
on YouTube. So,
What kind of lead magnets are like what's your thought process behind designing a lead magnet and what are you giving your audience?
So what I try to do is make it fairly simple. Like I would never do a lead magnet that was like 50 pages, right? I try
Okay.
to keep them, 8 to maybe 20 pages tops
Uh-huh.
because people don't want to be overwhelmed. They want something, a fairly simple solution to a fairly simple problem. So
Yeah.
for example, one of the lead magnets that we did was a positioning guide, how to position against AI as a human voice actor.
Oh, wow. That's so
And so,
clever.
right, because AI is taking a lot of work in our business. Uh, my own personal opinion is it's taking a lot of the bad work that many of us don't want to do to begin with, but it's making some inroads, right? And people are a
Yes.
little bit freaked out about it.
Yes.
And so we published this guide. That's been very well received. We just released a video today about 10 marketing blunders that newer voice actors typically make. And so we made a guide out of that so that they would have a sort of a PDF version of that video, but
Mhm.
also a checklist and other tools within that guide so that it could kind of be a guidebook. If you're newer and you're starting to market your business as a voice actor, this is a pretty good document to have that you can refer to, that you can put into practice yourself. So I'm trying to do one of those weekly, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I really like one, I like that you said just keep it simple. A freebie doesn't have to be an entire masterclass free training. It can be like, here's 10 mistakes you shouldn't make on your resume or when you're pitching yourself as a voice actor.
Yep.
Um, how are you getting them into your newsletter? Or is it if they opt in for a lead magnet, are they automatically in the newsletter?
They're automatically in for the newsletter, and this is something I learned actually from another next level member, Brianna Shade. Right,
Mhm.
Brianna published a great post about newsletters one day. I want to say it was about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and one of the things that stuck with me from that post was she said, "Make sure you're not selling in your newsletter. That's got to kind of be a safe content space." And
Mm,
so I had Uh, a full section down at the bottom with products in it, and blah, blah, blah. And I immediately pulled that out because that made sense to me, right?
hmm.
People need a place where they know you're not going to be, for lack of a better term, hawking stuff to them.
Yeah.
So that helps further know, like, and trust. So I pulled that back out. I do talk about my content for the week. In other words, if I've got a video on the 10 marketing blunders newer voice actors make, I'm going to mention that in the newsletter. The structure of the newsletter is this. It's called Move, Touch, Inspire. So the
Hmm.
idea is it's one idea to move you, one thought to touch you, and one quote to inspire you. And
Hmm.
it's yes, it's voiceover centric, but oftentimes it's about more ethereal things like mindset, managing things like rejection in our business,
Yeah.
things like that. So while it is business focused, it's also very mindset and emotional management focused as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. And I feel like that one of the mistakes people make in their runway or their funnel is if they aren't in launch, like if they don't have like their launch mechanism coming up, they won't be continually attracting leads onto this house email list and then keeping them warm. And I think that that's one of the best, smartest things you can do in your business is to keep motivating people to come to you for to receive value in your field and then give them something consistently over email so that when you get to your launch it's not the first time they're hearing for you. It also will really affect your email deliverability if you like add an email address and you don't email anybody for like until your next
Absolutely.
launch rolls
Yep.
around in the next quarter or 6 months. So like to have them consistently used to seeing like, oh yeah, Paul's in my inbox giving me free value all the time. There he is again.
Yep.
Then that supports in, like you said, you've got people that are on your email list that are already expecting you to deliver free value. And then all of a sudden you go, hey guys, I'm doing this free training. And everyone's like, what? I've never seen
Yeah.
you do a free training before. And then they hop in.
Yep. Yeah. Because you heighten the impact, right?
Yes.
By contrast.
Yeah. So what's something specific that you feel like you've learned inside of Business by Design this year that supported you in your business?
Oh God, where do I start? Uh, I have learned. I am not, and this may surprise you. Uh, there are people that are woo woo, right? Two woos. I'm probably about an eighth or a quarter of a woo.
Woo.
Right? I'm a
We.
mini woo. I'm a mini woo with data and science, right? That's just the way my brain has always worked. But again, I try to be as coachable as possible, and I try not to rule anything out. So, things like when we were at BBD Live and we had the spoon bending exercise, my spoon did not bend. I wasn't surprised, but I also was a little disappointed, right? So I'm going to go back this year, and hopefully the spoon will bend. I've tried to remain open.
Very common experience, Paul.
Yeah, I would imagine. I've tried to be really open to all things. I had a conversation with Rebecca, whose last name is escaping me at the moment, and I apologize, Rebecca, but she's a manifestation coach, and we were talking at Next Level Live a couple of weeks ago in Phoenix. And I said, walk me through this. Like, because when I hear as a mini woo, when I hear manifestation, I think it's super woo. Like, is that true? Like, I wanted her to like challenge this sort of preconceived notion that I've had. And she did a beautiful job. She said, really, manifestation is just co-creation, right? Whether it's with other people, whether it's with just having a collaborative vibe about you. And the freaking light bulb went on. I went, okay, this is not so strange. This is not a foreign language to me. I understand the concept now, but the language was a barrier for me. And once I got over the language and understood what she was talking about, it made complete sense to me. So I think being open to coaching and being curious and asking questions and challenging your own preconceived notions is huge. And I get the support to do that. Certainly in Next Level, and by extension, BBD as a larger community.
Yeah, that's it comes up on every single episode, is like there's the strategies and what you can pull from the program, but then there's being in the container of Business by Design with the other entrepreneurs. And that is something that I think really like makes BBD stand alone as I don't know where else on the internet you can go and find that, because the type of people that James attracts, the conversations that I end up in just meeting random people who are in BBD when we go to the live events is it's phenomenal. I'm always so impressed with the caliber of human that gets attracted into this program. It's so fun. And that I watched James for years and years feel so isolated and alone in his journey as a digital entrepreneur. And he's someone who's very self-fortified, really emotionally, where it does not bother him to be the outlier at a dinner party or in a room where like, yeah, no one understands what I do and they don't get it. And, his dad would come home all the time and be like, Jenny, they're hiring down the street at Subway. Should I tell James? Like, he's working on his business. Nobody understood what he was doing, even his parents at times. And so what I think in the design of Business by Design, what he wanted to do was not only give people the instruction manual that he wished he would have had when he started, but also the community, so that you could go and ask a question in a Facebook group and have 5 other entrepreneurs that have been there, done that, either understand it. Sometimes the posts that people share are just like, hey, I just want to know if anyone else is feeling this way. And to have 5 other people say, yeah, girl, I've had a launch like where I launched and it did amazing last time, and this time it's dead. You know what I learned? My market is cyclical. I don't launch in May anymore. I was talking to a student just now that was saying that she's learned through her failed launches when to not offer her product to her audience. She didn't think of that, but it was like, actually, they all want to buy in January and the fall. But if I launch in the summer, it kind of falls flat. And I've just noticed that. So I don't do it anymore. And you can get out of your own mess in your head, because you're not going, oh, it's me anymore.
Right.
People can just validate you and encourage you, and also say, oh yeah, show me your launch debrief. I used to make that mistake. Try doing this. And you crowdsource genius in there.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that attracted me to BBD and also Next Level was that's how I've structured my signature program.
Yeah.
It leans very heavily on community.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It's a sanity checker for everybody. It's a form of accountability. It's a form of bonding and community building. It's like there's so much good stuff that comes out of that you alluded to. We keep each other sane. We support each other through even personal stuff now, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it really has become. I hesitated to use this word for a very long time, but it's becoming true. It's really becoming a family. And so that's one of the things that attracted me into BBD was I knew that aligned with how I do things, right? I knew
Yes.
I wanted a community of people around me to help me as well and for me to help them.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because when I joined James's business, I was coming out of a decade plus long career with Lululemon. And I had worked for Lululemon in multiple states, multiple countries, and with so many teams that I had like a huge network of people that my job was so social. And that was my number one fear leaving the environment was I told James, I said, I know I'm not like you. I can't stand in front of a computer all day and not start to feel lonely and isolated. And I'm worried that if I go full into digital business, I'm going to feel like it's just me and my laptop and my dogs. And I'm like a hermit living in my house creating, because I had seen that lifestyle when he was creating his digital products in
I'm
2000.
laughing because that's me.
Yeah. Well, and James is like, what's wrong with that? I love being that way, But what's blown my mind is that if you want to use the program that way, and I meet people all the time that they've never been, maybe they've never even joined a live call or commented on Facebook and they're blowing it out of the water with their results. But then if you want to get in the Facebook group every day, talk to people, the amount of people that I have met that have on their own formed a little pod where they're like, oh yeah, I made a business bestie and then she knew this person, she knew that person in BBD. So now the four of us meet every week and we go over our launches and it's honestly like a social resource. Now I'm always amazed at how social my job feels because when I meet people that I've only talked to either on Facebook or on the Zoom calls, when I meet them in person, it really feels like you're meeting an old friend, Like I have people in Business by Design that have become legitimate friends, but I look forward to BBD Live because I'm like, we'll text each other, we'll DM each other like, I can't wait to run into you in the lobby. Let's go meet at the crystal shop or like I'll see them from across the room and we'll be like, yelling at each other like, "Oh my
Sure.
gosh, there you
Yeah.
are. You're so much taller in person."
Yeah, we have the same experience in voiceover too, because we have, two or three or four conferences a year where a lot of people will come out and it's a big freaking family reunion every time. So I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that I always, when people ask about Business by Design, it's like I think it's really easy for me to talk about the product because I watched James struggle when he didn't have a digital product. I remember like the moment that he was like, I'm gonna create a digital product, and one of our I wouldn't say friends, but an acquaintance at the time burst out laughing at him and was like, he showed the YouTube video of his idea and she just burst out laughing and was like, this is ridiculous. Now, to some human beings, that would be, to me, I would have my feelings hurt and go home and be like, I don't know, should I still do it? That was like rocket fuel to James, because if you laugh at him and say, I don't think that'll work, he just digs his heels in and says, watch me. So I think that even though he's someone that he doesn't need that level of social validation and encouragement for other people, he never wanted anyone who started a digital business to feel like they were just floating out there on their own.
Yeah.
And I think if there's anyone listening where you're thinking, I want to go online, but I don't want to be alone with my computer, the way around that is Business by Design because you can there's so much support in there. Every year people ask how much support is in the program and James is like I'm confused answering this sometimes because I know that these are people that are going to run their own program and I'm thinking like I personally think Business by Design has it's like we're like at max capacity for how much support you have. You know what I mean? James does all these live calls. You've got the coaches in there. I think on average, every single post, two or three coaches comment per post. And then not to mention there's thousands of entrepreneurs in there that are going to coach you themselves and comment. So No, you're not hanging out by yourself trying to make these processes work when you're inside Business by Design.
And to your point earlier, it is such a relief, a comfort, and a validation to have to realize that your problems and sticking points and obstacles and mental hurdles, they're largely not uniquely your own,
Yeah.
right? But we share this stuff. And a lot of people have already solved a lot of these problems. So to be in a community where that's the case, you can lean on that. And oh my God, it'll lift the weight of the world off your shoulders.
Yeah, because you're not going, oh, it must be me.
Mhm.
And also the amount of times that I've seen someone, I don't know what this is. Maybe it's because as a personal brand, what you're putting out there can feel personal because it is you on the internet going like, here's my brand, Paul Schmidt. And if people have opinions or you have comment trolls, then you can take it personally.
Right.
But there's so many times where I see someone launch and it doesn't work. And this happens a lot when we're doing the Rise of the Digital CEO and people are coming on to live calls where they don't have business by design, but they've been trying to make something stick in digital business. And they'll say, I'm worried it's me. I'm not valuable as a coach. People just don't want to buy from me. And what will get uncovered is the positioning, the marketing, the offer really isn't the product. So don't go there with like, you got to stand firm and I got something valuable to teach people. And then marketing it, how to package it, how to sell it, the process and the sales mechanism in which we get a lead and nurture it. And then that turns into a happy customer. That's a science, but that's different than your product. And so people confuse the two and then they get in their own
Absolutely.
way and they think a process isn't going to make a difference. It's me. There's something wrong with me and and the product I created, and it has nothing to do with that.
I will tell you how universal entrepreneurship is. That exact thing happens all the time in voice acting. People don't book,
Yeah.
especially early, and they default to it's me, right?
Mhm.
I suck as an artist.
I'm not talented. I don't have what it takes.
Exactly. Where it just might be the fact that you're not marketing at all, that you're not marketing well, that you're like you haven't positioned yourself as understanding your clients' problems and pain points, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot that goes into it that has very little to do with the art, right? Very
Yes.
little to do with you as an artist and your identity, you as a business person and your identity,
That
right?
what that reminded of is back when I was acting. I remember I would get the one of the most consistent pieces of feedback I got from directors was I didn't cast you for for the reading. The audition was fine. It was great. I cast you for the way you slate. And I would hear that over and over and over that when I slated my name, they would be like, and that's the character, and so
Wow.
I had a coach early on that was like, you're going to be really deliberate in the first 10 seconds that you're in front of a casting director. Most actors come in and just go, hi, I'm Jenny and I'm about to do my monologue and here it is. And then they go into the character. What I want you to do is you're going to this is acting coaching, but we created like a juxtaposition where the slate and whatever the monologue was like totally different. This is like
Really?
acting science. Anyway, and I thought like that's exactly what it's like. The funnel is that 10-second slate in front of the casting director that goes, I'm in, versus the monologue is the actual product. That's like, can you act? Can you deliver to the result as a coach? Yes. But how you position it and how people experience you in your marketing, that is a skill that you learn from James and you can rinse and repeat it. And what's amazing is that it's universal. He can teach a funnel to someone who has a niche in voice acting and the same funnel to someone who has a niche in dog training, and it works.
Yeah. Because it relies on, certain principles of human behavior, right?
Yeah.
And probably the easiest to articulate is know, like, and trust. People have to be aware of you. They
Mhm.
have to have at least a neutral opinion of you, preferably a favorable opinion, but they have to have trust because they're not going to hand over money or time or effort or sacrifice if they don't trust you. If you
Right.
haven't done a good job of proving that there's value here,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So well said. Do you have any advice for someone who's just starting out?
Yeah, my don't quit. Like you hear it sounds so incredibly simple. But if you're gonna, first of all, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, it's the best self-development course you will ever take in your entire life. Because it will stretch you and grow you and try you and get you out of your comfort zone like nothing else, with the possible exception of parenting that you could ever imagine. So the I'm a big fan of a writer named Simon Sinek who wrote Start With Why. He also
Yeah.
wrote a book called The Infinite Game. And what stuck with me from that book is life and business is an infinite game, right? Your job is not to win because there's no winning or losing. You don't win at business, right? You're either ahead or you're behind or somewhere in the middle. The object of an infinite game is to stay in the game as long as possible, right? So don't quit, because that's the only way to ensure that you will not be successful.
Mhm.
If you like that old comic, right? And I think we talked about it at Next Level Live. You know, the that meme of the miner with the pickaxe, right? And he's just about ready to give up, and he's that far from breaking through, right? Don't be that person. Just when you want to give up, remember that there are other people that are absolutely going to give up where you are right now. Don't be that person.
That's
That's
so
the
well
best
said.
advice I got for you if you're starting out, because I mean, just commit.
What would you say to someone who's like, well, I'm committed, but I don't think I need like a coach or a program.
Yeah, well, history will prove you wrong in every walk of life, whether it's sports, whether it's business, no matter what it is. The best, most historically proven way to shortcut your success is to learn from somebody who's trodden the path before you, right? It's called coaching, it's called mentoring. Uh, that's how we that's how we shortcut our success. There really are no other shortcuts in life except to learn from a coach who can teach you what you need to learn faster. The whole point of a coach is to shorten that timeline and that learning curve. No coach is going to be able to do it for you. No coach is perfect for everybody, but a good coach can shorten that timeline and that learning curve so that you're not spending decades on, random YouTube searches and subreddits and TikToks, often stitched together by, oh yeah, other beginners, right? You get stuck in beginner hell. Get real help. That's where the magic is, because otherwise, I always tell entrepreneurs, your most valuable asset is not your money, it's your time. And how you choose to spend your time and attention makes all the difference. And if you can focus that time and attention on someone who can teach you things that hundreds, thousands, millions of people have already learned, why would you not?
Yeah, James, I always joke with him that he's just a full-blown Libra because he's so dedicated to, I want the maximum input for the minimum amount of effort. Most of BBD is designed with like that in mind. He would find something that worked and then he'd be like, now let's refine it so that it's the what he calls the MVP, the minimum viable project, where it's like, what's the least amount of effort you could put into this and get the most amount of results, because he did spend years going, what if I did it that way, what if I did it this way, what if I changed that? And it's like tantamount to getting a master chef recipe where you're like, just do exactly what it says in this
Yeah.
recipe and you'll come out with a great chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah. And, this is how we learn too. We follow the recipe to the T for months and years. And then as you do that and you start to see little wiggles and you start to see little things in your results and in your data and everything else, then you begin to develop your own voice, to steal
Yes.
a term from my craft. And you begin to find what works exactly for you and make those little tweaks and refinements that you're already 80% the way there. Now you're really putting your stamp on your business, on your craft, whatever it is that you do.
Yes, I love that. I think James does a good job of, he's not very rigid as a teacher. I was just listening to him talk to someone last night that they were asking him a question about they have a webinar. I'm not sure how long it is, but I think like 2 hours maybe. And they're selling a $3,000 product off of the webinar.
Good for
And
them.
and they were asking him about it, and it's converting like crazy. And it's $1 million, $1 million+ business now. And he was like, well, I get people all the time ask me, can you sell that off of one webinar? And they were like, what? Well, yeah, of course. And then they were asking him about if he had ever done that. And he was like, I don't do webinar launches for products that are that price point, but obviously your audience likes it, so don't change it. And I love that I heard him say that, because I know a lot of coaches out there, they'll go, oh no, that you're making a mistake. We got to change the whole thing. He never makes a decision from his own opinion. He'll look at the math and say, well, give me the numbers. Where are your leads at? What did it convert at? And what are the sales? And he'll go, that's right on. That's correct. Don't change it. It's not going to tell you to fix something unless it's underperforming.
Unless it's broken.
And
Yeah.
he teaches you
Yep.
to know what number to look at, not just like, it's like people say all the time when they first get in BBD, like the first month of BBD, there'll be people who say like, my launch didn't do well, and he'll go, where's the debrief? And they'll show him, and it'll be like, they only made 3 sales, but there were only 10 people on the call. And
Exactly.
he's like, you converted at 30%.
30%. I'd kill for
That's
30%.
incredible. And they're
Yeah.
stuck in the loop of, I only sold to 3 people. So it failed. And he's like, so wait a minute, back up. How many people did you email? And they're like, well, I emailed 20. And you're like, wait a minute, you sent an email and you got a 50% show up rate? That's amazing. You got to get that email in front of more people. But if
Yeah.
they go, well, I emailed 10,000 and only 10 people showed up, now we got a problem with,
Exactly.
okay, that's where the problem is. And so he can teach you where to look and diagnose. He always says one of his skill sets as a coach is he can diagnose things. And when you have the right diagnosis, then you can create the right remedy. But
Well, and to the last question that you asked me, right? Like, why would you hire a coach? Well, for me, that exact thing, like I had no frames of reference. I didn't know what a good conversion rate was. I didn't know not only what CPL and EPL were, but I didn't know what made a good one. What was the benchmark? What should I be shooting for? Right. I had no frames of reference. And that's where a good coach and a good community can help you start to develop that in a way that you would never be able to do on your own.
yeah, and sometimes you're going to make a mistake when something's working and you're going to take it apart.
Yeah.
And every year we get someone who's joined BBD where they've like basically deconstructed and reconstructed a digital product like 5 times. And they're like, well, I'm coming to BBD finally reluctantly because I've tried a membership, I tried a launch, I tried a course, I tried automation, nothing's working. And James was like, okay, well, first of all, we got to talk about what are we sticking with so that we can rinse and repeat. Because if you're always in the creation process, nothing's going to hit. We have to find something that works, get the data, prove that that works, and then repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the first things I remember him saying, and this might have been in Rise last year, I can't remember, but the analogy of the bridges, right? So many people are building multiple bridges that they never, like none of those bridges ever gets completed. And until you have a bridge complete, you don't have any success.
Right. Yes. Paul, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. So my main site is vopro.pro. That's vopro.pro. And then my socials, because I do my best to try and keep them consistent, but it's some permutation of VOPro, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn. And if they want to email me directly, I'm certainly fine with that. It's paul@vopro.pro.
Amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I absolutely love hearing all of these digital success stories. And I especially love talking to entrepreneurs that are in a very specific niche, because I think when we start running ads to cold traffic, there's this trend that emerged where these strangers on the internet will comment, you can only make money teaching business or like teaching making money. And I'm like, that's so untrue. Which is the inspiration for these episodes came from, as James and I are like, let's go out into the BBD community and find people that have niches. Like we have someone who makes corsets. We have someone who's an animal communicator. We got someone, dog trainers, and certainly business coaches, obviously, but
Yeah.
voice acting.
And everybody's, you can, if you have an audience, if there are people that you can help, then you can make a good living from that, right?
Yeah.
Look at Brianna. She teaches people how to crochet kitties.
I
Right?
know.
I mean, come on, right? If that doesn't tell you that there's no niche too small or what you might think is oddball, that's, they say the riches are in the niches, right?
Yeah.
That's a great example. So I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, we had someone on the podcast just actually the week before this episode comes out, we will have had Joanna Tringali, who is a I think I'm saying it right. She's a buccal facial massage therapist. So it's like this area of the face. She teaches massage therapists and anestheticians how to do this massage that like releases the lymph. And it's really popular in New York because it's kind of like a way to not get injectables, but keep your face looking young. And
Right.
it's like, she's like in the anesthetician world, this niche is like this big. It's like,
Right.
it's so specific. And she was telling me like, now she hit 150,000 around in her first quarter of this
Wow.
year. And she was like, if I wanted to be teaching this off of the internet, I would have to be traveling around to hotel rooms all the time. Like, how would I teach people this? And now she just has a digital course where she teaches it. She said people are coming out of the woodwork asking her about it. And then I interviewed Sarah Bell Reed. She's a trumpet player. She's a musician that travels around the world playing trumpet. I think probably next week she's going to be like in Australia playing the trumpet somewhere. And she just learned how to do digital sound design, like digital music. I'm probably mispronouncing her niche, but she has now a course where she teaches people synth music, like how to create their own synth music. And she's like hitting it out of the park, at multiple six figures. And that's just, she was like, I just created a course around when I learned to do this as a musician. I was riveted and fascinated by it. And I taught myself to do it. And I thought, I think I want to share this with other musicians. It'd be so cool if I could teach them how to make their own music. And you're doing that, you know? It's so cool.
Riches are in the niches. That's for absolutely sure. And that's, one of the questions I had when I joined BBD was, is my niche big enough? Right? Like, there's not a ton of voice actors in the US or even the world, right? Like, you look at realtors, right? And you can swing a rope around your yard and hit a realtor, right?
Yes. Or
Uh,
or someone who is a realtor, but also is something else. You're like,
yeah.
well, they're a voice actor. They're also a realtor.
And voice actors are much, 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 much smaller community. And I thought,
Yeah.
Jesus, we talk about total addressable market, right? And I wondered for a long time, and it was reinforced in BBD that yeah, if you get a small niche, you're actually in a really great spot, because you probably have, if not a monopoly, you have a very small number of competitors as well.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I love that. So well said.
Yep.
Anything you want to leave people with, Paul?
No, I want to try and leave everything with gratitude. I'm so grateful that you reached out. We hadn't met even at Next Level Live. We were in the room together
Yeah.
for 2 days, but we didn't get a chance to meet. So I'm so grateful we have and gotten to know each other a little bit. So thank you for that. And I'm just so thankful for BBD and for Next Level. And it has changed my business. It's in the process of changing my life. And I'm just very grateful. So thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. It's such a pleasure to get to talk to you today. And I can't wait to see you at Next Level in August.
I
We'll
will
have to
see you there.
connect this next time. And for those of you listening, we're at a very special point in our year because Business by Design only opens the door for 4 days. And every year, James does a training, The Rise of Digital CEO, which by the time this episode comes live, we'll either be in the middle of delivering the rise or it'll be right around the corner. So it's a 3 day free, totally free workshop where James breaks down the 5 gears that every digital business needs to build and scale. He does things in that workshop that's like the 7 ingredients to creating an irresistible offer. He teaches the role that your business needs from you in order to have it be successful. And even that section alone, which is on day one, people have breakthroughs where they go, oh my gosh, I'm not running my business like a business. And so if you haven't registered for the Rise, please come join me and James. I'm going to be there leading meditations and providing all the big woo-woo stuff. Um, And we would just love to see you there. And now's the time. If you have questions about starting a digital business, my team and I are all over the Rise Facebook group answering questions. James has so many lives that he's doing, coaching people just for free. Come check it out and come see what the BBD community is like. And everyone's so generous in that community. Every time we get to the Rise, we've got BBD alumni that show up in the Facebook group, or they come on calls with me and they're like, I'll be there to talk if anyone has questions. We just want everyone to experience the magic of business by design. And it's kind of a special time of year where even if you aren't in the program, if you are part of the Rise, you get to be in that bubble for like a couple of weeks, and it's really special. So we'll link that up in the show notes. You can go to businessbydesign.net/rise to register for that. Come join me and James live. And I've got so many episodes coming out for success stories. So if you're listening to this and these stories, I'm hoping that you'll see yourself in these digital entrepreneurs, that you can relate to them and hear what they've done so that you can listen to that and then emulate their success. And like Paul said, just don't give up. That's the secret sauce, is don't quit.
And one of the great things about BBD too is you start to see that, nobody was anointed on some mountaintop somewhere as a successful entrepreneur. Everybody went through the same struggles that you're either going through now or are about to go through. And if you have the right mindset, that can be incredibly inspirational, right? Because you can go, oh, they worked through it. Guess what? There's a path for me. I can go that way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll catch you next time here on the Mind Your Business podcast for another weekly win.